Good afternoon, everybody. Bread and Butter episode number 8.
Dude,
Bread and Butter podcast episode number 8.
The Ocho.
The Ocho.
8.
A beautiful day. Hope everybody's having a great day. We're glad you're here with us on a Monday afternoon. But before we dive into sports, what we typically do, we want to start the show and we want to send our prayers and condolences to those affected by last night's mass shooting in Las Vegas. Last reported, over 50 people were killed and 500 people were injured, and is what is said to be the worst mass shooting in American history.
Yeah.
The world should be a safe place to live in for everybody, and unfortunately, over the last few years, it has not. Whether it be here on our home soil or overseas in Europe, really anywhere. And you should take the time every day to tell someone you love them or you appreciate them, because you don't know when these events are going to happen, guys.
Know, man.
You never know. But those affected by last night's tragedy, from the Bread and Butter family, we send our prayers and condolences, and we hope everything smooths over in the next few days for you and your loved ones.
Agreed. Well said.
Yep. Let's dive into some high school football, guys.
On a more happier note.
More sporty note, the Valencia Vikings suffered their first loss of the season on the road to a tough Calabasas team. Calabasas improves to 5-0. The Valencia Vikings will open up Foothill League play against Hart this Friday. Other notable Foothill League teams getting started underway. League games include Saugus at Golden Valley and Canyon versus West Ranch. And Taylor, West Ranch is the only undefeated team.
They have sole possession of first place right now, even though the league hasn't started yet.
And Canyon's not really a strong team, but a lot can happen.
They're hanging in there. Football leagues, nothing's ever guaranteed to anybody, every win you have to work hard for. So going up against Canyon or, Saugus is in last place right now, but no matter who the opponent is, you should always prepare for them like they're the best team you're ever going to play against.
Well, of course.
So,
and these games matter now.
They do. More than ever.
These determine your playoff ranking, who you're gonna play, how well you're gonna do.
And the thing about going back to that Valencia game, the final score was 65-63.
Yes. And we don't usually see that high. We do see high scoring from Valencia, but we don't see teams scoring high against them.
And, just by the score, it just looks like a good football game, obviously, like a shootout and, an exciting, high-flying offenses and stuff. So then, obviously, we couldn't make it to the game because it's in Calabasas, and
we're not going there.
I'm not going to go to Calabasas to watch Valencia play. But,
might run into a Kardashian. A celebrity, maybe Drake. You don't know.
It's not Canada, but
he's got a house there.
I saw on Saturday that Valencia lost, and so I go to look at the stats, and the stats aren't available. So I'm just left here.
We're left
with
here
the biggest cliffhanger of probably the best game of the year so far in high school football.
And we always like to highlight how Valencia does well in these games because Connor Downs has 15 passes on the year.
Typically, he has 8 attempts for 250 yards.
And Moises Haynes usually runs the ball for about 20 carries. He maybe gets 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. This team is unstoppable, but this Calabasas team had their number.
Yes. And, Calabasas was also 4-0 coming into this, so we should have...
We got to highlight them,
too. We should have seen that coming a little bit. We were kind of just riding the high of Valencia, just they're unstoppable, man. They got to beat everyone, so...
Not so fast!
Nope. And then also, last Friday, Hart beat Ventura 26-0.
And Hart finally getting back on their winning ways. Hart should be a tough competition for Valencia. Their quarterback, JT Shrout, he's a beast.
Yeah.
Big, lengthy quarterback. Kind of reminds me of Jared Goff.
He's got the build.
Yeah. He reminds me of Jared Goff a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, now everyone loves Jared Goff.
Everybody loves Jared Goff now, but we'll talk about Jared Goff in a bit. COC Athletics, The Cougars, 4-1 on the year, guys. They improved their record with a 29-28 win over Grossmont. Andrew Brito, 19-34, 241 yards, 2 touchdowns. Keelan White had 10 carries, 87 yards, 1 touchdown. R.B. Marlowe, 90 yards receiving. He had a touchdown. Alonzo Rees and KJ Latu both had 8 tackles. Bobby Brown and Damon Lemon both had interceptions. This defense for COC is starting to come around, and that was the key factor for them winning that game versus Grossmont. You see the score 29-28. It was a real defensive game. Andrew Brito just looked great.
Yep.
He just looked great. On to the women's soccer. The Lady Cougars are now 7-2 on the year with a monster 5-2 win over Oxnard. Kayla Brennan found the back of the net. Alondra Solis and Kyla Bradford both scored 2 goals. Now, let me tell you this, Taylor. Bradford now has 6 goals on the year. But the funny part about this is she's only scored in 2s.
Yeah.
Okay, she's only scored in 2s. Richard, you're looking a little puzzled.
That's pretty crazy.
She's only scored in 2s. So in the 3 games she's scored, she's only scored in 3 games. So 3 times 2, 6.
6 goals.
6 goals.
3 games.
Baller.
Those 3 games have only been braces. So for those of you who don't know what that means, a brace is 2 goals. Hat trick is 3. So when she scores, the team is 3-0, and she only scores in 2s.
Guys, watch this. I'm gonna go win the game for us. So
As
yeah,
my
that's always
basketball friends would say, Kobe.
I mean,
Kobe!
the Kobe of women's soccer, apparently.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
That's impressive, man.
Just imagine doing that every game.
Even in like Premier League or La Liga, like
Yeah,
that's 2 goals, man.
scoring a goal 1 time is hard.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing.
Yeah,
Imagine doing it 5 times to Oxnard. They just put the beating on them.
I'd feel hurt a little bit.
The Lady Cougars will play Moore Park tomorrow at home. If you're here in town, game time's at 7. Be there or be square.
That'll be a good one.
they have a new I guess it's not new. It's like a year old now, but the soccer facility here.
Yeah.
they redid the upper field.
It's fresh.
The lights are
I'd
like
say.
It's fresh.
the lights are literally lit. Like
It's floodlights.
the light,
You could see everything.
The lights are like baseball stadium lights.
Stadium.
And I interviewed the athletic director when they finally finished
yeah.
the stadium, and so he put an emphasis on that, and so now we can finally have play at night here. So
Dude, I'm pretty sure that's where I met you
yeah,
first.
that's where I
We
met
did-
Richard for the first time. Yeah,
Filmed our news story over there.
And a connection was made ever since.
Women's
Oh,
soccer, building friendships.
Women's volleyball now.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
The women's volleyball team is 11-4 with a win over Victor Valley and a win in the Mount Sac Invitational. Congrats to them. Congrats to Coach Clay Timmons. So far, a successful year.
And the girls.
And the girls. I interviewed Coach Timmons. We mentioned this last week.
That'll be up
Video
on
will be
our
up on our
Facebook,
Bread and Butter Facebook page. That video will be up at around 3:00. And he said this. Why not us? Really? Why not us? If this team is given 100% and everybody's healthy, why not us? And they showed it. They really did. They won in straight sets versus Victor Valley, and then in the Mount Sac Invitational, they only lost 1 set to Citrus and Mount Sac, I believe. So this team gets the job done.
Yep, they're ballers.
The Lady Cougars will play this Friday at home versus Moore Park. So COC gets to face Moore Park this week. Game time is at 6 p.m. this Friday. If you're in town, you want to see a great volleyball team, be there.
I'm gonna go.
You're gonna go?
Yeah,
Okay. Let's make it happen.
let's go.
Let's make it happen.
Let's go.
Moving on to the national level, USC goes on the road and ends up losing to a better Washington State team.
Who would have predicted that?
Wow, I don't.
Who would have predicted that?
Who would have
Who
predicted?
saw that coming? Shout out Tim Strong.
Tim Strong. Unfortunately, Tim is not here today. He's dealing with some stuff. Wish him well. He'll be back next week for those wondering. And for those wondering if you're not hearing a lot of voices, George isn't here as well. We'll see George on Wednesday. It's me, Taylor, and Richard.
Yeah,
The
Tanner has class right now.
Yeah.
Tim's dealing with some stuff. George has work, I think.
Bare bones.
The gruesome twosome
twosome.
plus Richard.
Boom. I'm my own man. Thank you.
I'm the butter. He's the bread. Richard's the end that keeps us
Together,
glue.
yes.
Boom.
So Washington State goes on to really just outplay SC. I mean, it was a great game, nonetheless. Just Sam Darnold, he fumbled it at the end.
Yeah, SC had a lot of mistakes that entire game. That ultimately those mistakes stack up and lead to your inevitable downfall if you make that many mistakes. So it was just one of those games, Sam Darnold, 15 for 29, 164 yards, 1 interception. Not too great of a day for the Heisman hopeful.
Could be better.
Hopeful top pick in the draft or something. Ronald Jones, 14 carries, 128 yards, a touchdown. The running game was there, I guess, and I guess that's what they were trying to do because St. Bernard only had 150 yards. So, it was a good game. Like, obviously, these teams are the tops in the nation. So,
and in the Pac-12,
and obviously the Pac-12, yeah.
And Luke Falk definitely, I think, gives Darnold and Josh Rosen a real run for their money as best quarterback in the nation and
Pac-12,
in the Pac-12, and could possibly be taken ahead of them. Luke Falk, 34-51, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. But I want to highlight Jahad Woods of Washington State on the defense. He had 9 tackles and was a key part for that defense and that great win.
Yeah, the defense. I said earlier that SC made a lot of mistakes, but people just don't make mistakes just because it's fun. The defense usually causes offenses to make mistakes, and we should give credit to them.
Yeah, of course,
to wreak havoc to the USC offense.
And give credit to Mike Leach, too. Mike Leach is one of the better coaches in the Pac-12.
5-0, man.
5-0.
Because of this game, the results in the top 25, SC dropped 9 spots to number 14 overall.
And Washington State went up by 5.
Washington State is number 11 now. So the rest of Washington State's schedule, I believe, is should be pretty easy. No, they play Oregon next. Cal's
iffy.
Wishy-washy. Colorado's got a really good offense. They played really okay against UCLA. Arizona should be not too hard. Stanford.
You got a potential Heisman.
20 Utah, and then Washington.
So they got it pretty tough.
They're backloaded at the end of the season if they can beat all 3 of those teams, I predict they'll be in the top 4.
I definitely see them beating Oregon. It'd be a tough one.
Obviously for them to finish out their season with those 3 wins, I'd also hope that they would be undefeated before then.
Hope so.
Yeah.
And then SC's schedule, they'll be facing Oregon State this weekend. Then they'll face Utah. They'll be at Notre Dame. They'll be at Arizona State. They'll face Arizona. They'll be at Colorado, and they'll finish the year off against UCLA. So for USC, going on forward, I definitely see them going on to beat Oregon State. That shouldn't be a challenge for them. I could see them beating Utah. Notre Dame is a very interesting opponent. When we get to that game, there'll be a lot more to talk about. Arizona State, Arizona, Colorado, that should be interesting. And then UCLA, that's a big question mark.
Yeah.
That's a big question mark, but that's all the way in November.
Yeah, that's a ways down the road. We just got to October, guys.
Yeah, we're in October 2nd. It's time to get spooky. I want to highlight a few more teams in the top 25. San Diego State didn't even go anywhere. They're still number 19. South Florida.
Penny.
Yeah, Rashad Penny. South Florida didn't go anywhere. They're number 18. UCF, now at number 25.
Yep.
North Carolina State has had some key wins this year. They're 4-1.
Another team that, it's not under the radar anymore because they're number 5, but Georgia in the SEC is not getting talked about enough, I think. But they've had some pretty convincing wins. They played Notre Dame earlier in the year, and they beat them.
They beat them by 1, I believe.
They gave Notre Dame their only loss. They beat Mississippi State, I believe.
And a very impressive win at that.
And Georgia's got a true freshman at quarterback. I don't remember his name right now, but I know he's number 11, and he's been playing pretty well.
We know he's number 11.
Yeah, hold on, let me just find his name real quick.
And Georgia,
Jake Fromm.
Yeah. And Georgia will be playing a pretty easy schedule the rest of the way. They'll be at Vanderbilt. They'll be playing Missouri. Then they'll be playing Florida. That could be their only loss of the year.
Florida and South Carolina and Auburn, those are all pretty good teams in the SEC. South Carolina is known to just upset people.
I see them beating Florida and South Carolina, but Auburn will be the toughest test. And then they'll be playing Kentucky and Georgia Tech. definite win-outs the last 2 games of the year.
That's another thing to consider. If Alabama loses a game, which is really not
Doesn't happen often.
It's hard to predict that. Usually, the top 4 teams that the AP picks are usually from different conferences, unless it's the SEC, I guess, because they like to hype up the SEC because it's overhyped all the time. But if Alabama loses a game and Georgia can win out those games we were talking about, then Georgia will. I mean, they also have to play in the. They also have to play in the SEC title game. Yeah. So I think they're in different divisions than Alabama. I'm not sure. I don't really pay attention.
Are you talking about Jacob Easton, that quarterback?
No, I just said Jake Fromm.
Oh, okay.
It's exciting time to be in college football. The top 4 didn't change at all. For those who are wondering, Oklahoma didn't play. They had the bye week.
Yeah, you said before the season started, you said you like to watch college football more than the NFL because it's more exciting. And I didn't really watch college football that much outside of SC.
Right.
And you're right. It's just the atmosphere of a college football game is it's just more exciting. Like we have a clip from the UCLA game. I mean, not the UCLA.
The San Diego State game.
And they played in the same stadium the Chargers played in, and the clip we're about to play, the stadium sounds louder than any Charger game I've ever watched on TV.
Yeah, Richard, can you cue that up for us?
Here we go.
San Diego State. Yeah.
Rashad Penny, Jawan Washington back deep. It's going to be Washington with lots of room. How good run back for San Diego State. Jawan Washington on the opening kick. Touchdown Aztecs.
And that was Jawan Washington, 96 yards to the house to open up the game. Yeah. San Diego State is the only team in California that is undefeated.
Yeah.
And they're ranked number 19. They're 5-0. I think it's the division they play in, which is hurting them a bit. But San Diego State has legit talent. Rashad Penny, he is the one of those contenders to really make a push for the Heisman. He had 25 carries, 107 yards on the ground. He also had a big receiving touchdown, which put San Diego State up 14-7 in the first quarter. Christian Chapman, a very well-established quarterback, 10 of 19, 136 yards and 2 touchdowns. Taylor, do you think SDSU is a legit team to make a big bowl game at least? I mean, it might be a long shot for them to get into the BCS championship, but do you see them going a big bowl game such as like the Cotton Bowl or maybe the Orange Bowl, something like that?
Let's see. Their next opponent is UNLV.
That should be an easy run.
I mean, you say that, but then this whole Vegas thing happened. So UNLV, I mean,
they got a lot on the line.
They're not an impressive football team, but events like this usually inspire athletics.
Oh, of course.
So that's not going to be an easy game. Boise State after that is probably their toughest opponent in the Mountain West.
I think that might be really their only opponent. Yeah. They'll play Fresno, Hawaii, San Jose, Nevada, Reno, and University of New Mexico. So their only potential loss, I'm sorry, but I don't think UNLV is going to really be a threat. Of course, if you remember the times when the Saints played after Katrina, the Texans recently after Hurricane Harvey, even though they lost, but there's a lot of pride there. Their only real opponent is Boise State. And Boise State can play. They always have been able to play. But I think SDSU might go undefeated this year or just lose one game.
If they lose one game, I think they'll get knocked back to low 20s after winning a bunch. I guess in 2 weeks they play Boise. But then, assuming they win out, like they should, odds-wise, they would have to play either Wyoming, Utah State, Colorado State, or Boise State, or New Mexico. Oh my gosh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams in the Mountain West, in the Mountain West Mountain Conference, are 3-2 right now.
So it's a real cakewalk.
That's a toss-up right there. I would predict it would be Boise State or Wyoming.
Wyoming had a decent year last year.
That's just a shot in the dark. Colorado State's also been looking pretty good. I don't know that much about Utah State, but aside from Boise State, I think San Diego State would have an easy time with all those teams just because I think they're more talented.
Yeah.
So they're looking good to like you asked, I think they could get a shot in like the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl.
No, they can't do the Fiesta Bowl because the Fiesta Bowl determines the winner who.
Is
goes
that
to the
the playoff one?
Yeah, that's a playoff game and the Rose Bowl.
Oh,
the Fiesta Bowl and the Rose Bowl determine those who are going to the championship game because they're playoff games.
Did they do that this year? Because last year the Rose Bowl was USC Penn State. And
it is. I believe it's this year that it's the Rose Bowl and Fiesta Bowl. Richard, can you look that up so we could have a fact check on that?
So
anyway, yes, I think they can make it to a big bowl game.
The 2017 college football championship playoff. Like, what are the playoff?
Yeah, the Orange Bowl and like the Sugar Bowl makes sense to me.
For SDSU or for the
playoffs?
No, I think I think it's the Rose Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl. I really do.
Okay.
Because I was looking at tickets to go to that.
The Fiesta Bowl usually has a Mountain West team in it. Like, it's usually Boise State that plays in the Fiesta Bowl.
Oh, because wasn't Western Michigan like one of those teams that made a really good bowl game last year, something like that?
They did have a good bowl game last year. I don't know if it was like a big one like that though, because there's 5 billion bowl games.
Moving on to the back to the Pac-12 rather. UCLA holds off Colorado to snap a 2-game losing streak with a 27-23 win. Josh Rosen, the chosen Rosen, 28-45, 372 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Sosa Jamambo, 21 carries, 70 yards. Kenny Young on the defensive side for the Bruins, 12 tackles. The UCLA defense, don't want to say they looked excellent, but they looked good.
They look better than they usually do.
Better than what they usually do, yeah.
Before that game, their offense was averaging 45 points a game, and their defense was giving up 43 points a game.
Yeah, it was going back and forward. So this is the first time in all season the UCLA's defense has looked like a defense.
It looked like, a good defense. Good enough. They won the game. Colorado was a tough team, but they fall to 3-2. Their quarterback, Stephen Montez, he had a pretty good game. 17-36, 243 yards, a touchdown. He also ran the ball quite a lot. He had 15 carries, 108 yards for himself. He looked pretty good. Mm-hmm. That game was interesting. I thought
it was. I think it was a must-win for UCLA and for Jim Mora.
For sure. But because of how atrocious UCLA's defense was, I thought Colorado would be like a typical UCLA game where it would be just a shootout to the end.
Right.
And there was actually good defensive play on both sides. And I enjoyed it, I guess. It was like, I like watching defenses be good. I'm weird.
You're not weird.
That season, Peyton Manning threw 55 touchdowns. I was just disgusted. Mainly because he was on the Broncos.
Next game we wanted to talk about was Stanford. They had a big win over Arizona State. They won 34-24. Bryce Love
How many yards did he get?
301.
301.
He looks like the real front runner for the Heisman.
Hold yourself. Front runner. Skip. Yeah. It's week 5. It's like half the season left.
But still,
that was a good game.
But he broke Christian McCaffrey's record with that stat, his single game stat.
They played Arizona State.
Granted, it was Arizona State, but you're really halfway through the year right now, and he's looking to break Barry Sanders' single season record of 2,628. Love has 1,088 through 5 games.
He does.
5 more games, he's right there.
Okay.
He's right there.
Here's what I'm going to say.
Richard got it for us. Say what you have to say, and then I'm going to tell you this.
No.
Me?
I'm going to go on a long tangent. You say what?
The playoff games, I was right. It was the Rose Bowl.
Really? So is it not going to be a
And then it's the Sugar Bowl. It's the Sugar Bowl. The Sugar Bowl. College football playoff at All-State Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. So
the championship.
The championship
Atlanta.
is in
Huh.
Oh, there's Mercedes-Benz Superdome and Stadium. Wow. Mercedes-Benz.
That's confusing.
Getting the job done.
Okay.
Getting the job done.
That's a little disappointing. It's not Pac-12 Big Ten. I mean, it might be, but
Can't tell.
it's probably not guaranteed. So, what was I going to say? Dang it.
Bryce Love, Heisman.
The Stanford offense is built around Bryce Love, right?
Say the least.
He 300 yards. Built around Bryce Love. What they do week in and week out is going to be determined by what
Bryce Love.
this young man can do. If he's having a good time on the ground, you're just going to win the game probably. And hope your defense can stop them. If they're not, they're going to have Keller Christ, or Christ, however you say it, throw the ball a lot, probably to Bryce Love. And then they're trying to win the game that way. Saquon Barkley is a athletically more gifted player than Bryce Love, I believe. He had a rough game this week. He still got over 100 yards all-purpose.
He also had a hat trick. He ran.
He threw one, yeah.
He threw, and he returned.
I think he ran for a touchdown.
I think he ran, returned, and threw. You see that throw?
I didn't put it.
It was on the money.
What the heck? I thought I put it in there.
But I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I
think
mean,
he did throw for a touchdown, which is cool. But
the flea flicker.
Penn State's offense, as much as you say, I mean, against Iowa, it was definitely give Barkley the ball and pray. But McSorley, his name is? I think it's Nate. Trace McSorley. Is getting recognized as an elite quarterback in college football right now. More so than Keller Christ. I don't really know how to say it. I should look that up. But I believe that by the end, actually, because of how much Bryce Love is getting the ball, depending on... See, the thing is, people are going to start to figure out that Bryce Love is the only thing Stanford can do on offense. And if people figure that out, he's going to struggle like Saquon Barkley did this week. And I think eventually, just because of athleticism, Barkley will have a better year by the end of it than Love.
And I think Saquon Barkley...
Also, when you mentioned Bryce Love being the front runner of the Heisman, you're forgetting about Baker Mayfield, who didn't play this week.
Okay, that's true. That's very true. But I think Saquon Barkley, like I said, he had that hat trick. He reminds me of Jabril Peppers from Michigan last year.
But Jabril Peppers played on defense.
He played on defense, but I know he played on defense. But it's the similarities.
He's a weapon.
He's very and very similar. I know Saquon Barkley doesn't play on defense, but he's a great special teams player. He's a great offensive player.
It's like Cordell Stewart.
Yeah.
Slash. He's a quarterback slash receiver slash running back slash returner. Saquon Barkley apparently can throw the ball. I didn't see the clip, but he threw a touchdown. I saw. So.
It was nice.
Yeah.
But
you okay?
I'm trying to read this comment here on your Instagram. I can't read upside down.
Where are we? Oh, I'll answer it later.
They're talking shit.
No, they're not.
No.
Richard was about to beat some.
Never. We're pacifists.
How dare you?
But if I have to, conclude who's really gonna take the Heisman, I can't.
Okay.
I can't.
I mean, that's fair.
'Cause
gun to your head, who you're picking?
Oh man. Who do you pick?
Pick Zach.
You
Saquon
have 5
Barkley.
seconds.
Okay, that's the right choice.
I'm gonna go with Saquon Barkley because I think Penn State is gonna face more talent.
True. They already have, I believe.
Yes.
Stanford's played UCLA and USC. But Arizona State.
But there's better teams. There's better teams out there. And when I believe Penn State plays Ohio State later in the year.
They do.
Yeah, that's probably going to be the toughest matchup Saquon Barkley is going to have to face.
Their defense is impressive. For sure.
But we can't overlook Rashad Penny. He's arguably in a running back factory at San Diego State.
Is.
He's a product. He's a great player. But I think he's going to get... I say we can't overlook him, but I know he's going to get overlooked. He's getting overlooked by everybody.
The way traditionally even Heisman voters vote, the way the Heisman works, I did a research paper on this in high school.
Wow.
Every person that's won a Heisman gets a vote on the next Heisman winner. And then it's determined by journalism people.
Journalists?
Journalists.
You are one of those, right?
But I'm a journalism person. Based on region. And because a lot of the East Coast journalists don't watch the West Coast games because they'll end at like midnight or something, the West Coast players don't get as much votes as like the East Coast players. That's why I think Derrick Henry won the Heisman instead of Christian McCaffrey.
That's interesting.
Anyway,
But Christian McCaffrey won the
Maxwell.
he won the Maxwell, which is like
But-
the MVP.
basically, your only Heisman candidates this year. That's not true. Barkley's in Penn State and Baker Mayfield's in Oklahoma. But you got Penny, Darnold, and Rosen and Bryce Love, who are all Californians. I don't know if they're from California, but they play in California. It's going to be rough, man, especially for Rashad Penny, because when I was bringing up the journalism thing, because it's the same people who vote for the top 25, they're just going to look at the Mountain West schedule and be like, oh, you played trash teams.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're going to do what you did.
Exactly. And I think we could both agree that it's not going to go to a quarterback.
Baker Mayfield has a chance.
He makes a strong case, but it's not going to go to him.
He could have a 7-touchdown game next week.
I hope he proves me wrong.
I do too.
I hope he
I
does.
predicted Saquon Barkley, but
7.
Let's go to the NFL. The Rams improved to 3-1 and have sole possession of first place in the terrible.
whoa, Seattle looked good last night. They finally showed what Seattle can do. Finally,
Okay.
it only took them 4
Okay,
weeks.
not so terrible.
Terrible.
And NFC West with a 35-30 win over Dallas. Jared Goff played very well. 21-36, 255 yards, 2 touchdowns. Todd Gurley, 121 yards on the ground, 94 yards receiving, and a touchdown. And can you tell me who scored?
Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp.
Damn.
60 yards receiving and a touchdown. The Rams are starting to look like a well-oiled machine. I give credit to Wade Phillips and Sean McVay.
Sean McKay.
Who?
Um,
But Wade Phillips is historically a great defensive
Yeah.
coach.
and he beat his old team, the Cowboys.
Mhm.
They just needed a little bit to warm up, you know? Now they're here.
I think we all picked the Rams on Wednesday.
I don't think Tanner picked the Rams or George.
Yeah, the losers decided not to show up, huh?
Or Tim.
Couldn't show
see
their
how it
faces,
is.
huh?
I see how it is.
Ah.
But
That being said, Zeke did have a good game. He had 84 rushing yards and I think like 56 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns.
yeah, Zeke came
Zeke
to
had a good game.
he came
Dak
to play.
Prescott
He had
did
a
not
good
have that great of a game.
you know what?
He
got
looked-
sacked
he's
a few
looked better
times.
last
Yeah.
year. You know,
Dak Prescott,
he's,
yeah.
he's definitely having a little bit of a sophomore slump. They are 2-2.
But that doesn't mean they can't pick it up. It's still very early. Dak Prescott, 20-36, 252 yards, 3 touchdowns, and interception. Also said he did get sacked quite a few times. But did you see that Alfred Morris run?
I did.
That was, I think,
the only thing about that run was that he didn't score.
exactly. That 70-yard run, and he didn't score. His only other run was for 6 yards. But Dez Bryant has been a big question all year for Dallas. Whether he's past his prime or he's just not that good anymore.
People are questioning his speed and his effort.
But Dez Bryant is arguably one of the,
He's like a top 10 receiver.
he's a top 10
and
receiver
in the
always.
conversation.
But he's been covered up so well.
Okay, yeah.
He's been covered up very well in the first 4 games of the year. Granted, he had 98 yards receiving and on 5 receptions.
He did drop the ball a few times, which is where the effort comes into play.
Exactly. Also want to give credit to the defense.
The Rams' defense looked good.
Alex Ogletree, 7 tackles. He had a great game as well. Mr. Mark Barron.
Barron.
He had quite a few. He led the team with 8 tackles.
I love this new. It's not that new, I guess. It's like 2 or 3 years old. This new trend where safeties are getting put into linebacker positions.
Yeah.
I think it's just it's so smart. Especially like the bigger ones like Mark Barron,
But now the biggest question is for the Rams is, are we going to see Jeff Fisher 3-1 Rams? Or are we going to see a continually great Rams team?
Wait, were the Rams 3-1?
They were
last year?
3-1
Oh
last
my
year.
God.
The Rams were 3-1
It's
last
happening
year.
again. See, the thing is, the difference between this year and last year.
Head coaching.
Okay, I was going to say Todd Gurley did not have this good of a start last year.
True.
And people always say you can bring a run game anywhere. You can bring it inside, outside, rain, snow, sleet, thunder. You can run the ball wherever you want, except on the road. But that's just like a football hard thing on the road,
Can you do it at a rainy night in Stoke?
They play Seattle next week.
They
Rams
do. And
It's at home, though.
Yes, and we were all thinking this Dallas game is their real first test, but this Seahawks game at home is their legit real first test.
Especially now that the Seahawks have figured it out.
Yeah, the Seahawks had a big win yesterday against Indianapolis, and I don't know why we chose Indianapolis, Taylor.
We did? Oh,
We chose Indianapolis.
I believed in Jacoby Brissett.
I did too
And Seattle was looking rough,
for the first few quarters, and then they just eventually blew them out. But Seattle's picking it up. The Los Angeles Rams are looking like what they should be.
I don't think they should be looking like this. At the beginning of the season, people were expecting
The Chargers
nothing
to be
out of
better.
this.
They were expecting the Chargers to be
Everyone was
better.
expecting the Chargers to be better. Can we not talk about the Chargers?
We're going to, but
Yeah.
when we do our predictions on Wednesday, we're gonna have to really do some statistical outputs on this. We're gonna
About the Rams?
yeah, and the Seahawks,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
because this is their real first test.
And
I think this game really
At the
determines who
beginning
wins
of
the
the
division.
yeah, okay. And at the beginning of the year, everyone was really critical of Jared Goff and how he played last year. And the thing is, this year, he has a different head coach who is offensive-minded and
Yes.
is very good at grooming quarterbacks. And last year, he had Jeff Fisher. So say what you want about Jeff Fisher. I'm just going to leave it at that. But Jared Goff is obviously thriving in this new Sean McVay system, because I didn't look at the stats this week, but going into this game, he was third in the league in passer rating, and that's always a good thing, because that means you're not throwing as many interceptions and you have a high completion percentage, throwing a few amount of touchdowns. And the thing about this Rams team that I think makes them a contender to go far and maybe like win the division wild card, go to the playoffs at least, is they're very balanced. Todd Gurley is a workhorse, and Jared Goff has a lot of weapons to throw to. Their defense is really strong.
Yes,
So they're just looking like a strong overall team right now.
and his line looks pretty
Not
decent.
awful.
Yeah, it's not bad. They protect him.
I mean, it's not the Cowboys line, but
No,
the
they-
Cowboys lost. So
You go into Dallas and you beat the Cowboys. That says a lot. You could put that on Jared Goff's resume. That's a highlight right there.
and he threw a touchdown. Cooper Cup.
Yes, Cooper Cup. But now they'll be playing Seattle next week. Like I said, I think that game's going to determine the real winner of the division.
At the Coliseum, though. The last
At
time
the
the
Coliseum.
Seahawks went to the Coliseum, it was 9-3.
I think there's going to be
Though, it was Jeff
there
Fisher.
might be a bigger turnout this week at the Coliseum. Maybe 56,000 people. Not 55, 56. Who knows? Let's move on.
Speaking of seats, though, the Chargers.
Yeah, speaking
this
of
morning,
seats, the Chargers, what did they do? They
decided to
cover up
block off
seats.
seats at the StubHub Center because
They can't sell
they can't
out.
sell out the stadium.
Well, are you going to pay $100 for parking to go there?
No.
Hell no. The Chargers ended up losing 26-24 and moved to 0-4. Taylor, you were absolutely right. The Eagles played down to their opponents and the Chargers played up, but the Eagles were just the better team. Phillip Rivers, 22-38, 347 yards, 2 touchdowns. His counterpart, Carson Wentz, 17-31, 242 yards, plus a touchdown. The Eagles, they just looked like the better team. They really held Melvin Gordon. 10 carries, 22 yards from Melvin Gordon. Keenan Allen had 138 yards. Tyrell Williams had a 115.
The Chargers defense didn't get to do what it wanted to do.
No,
LeGarrette Blount got to do whatever he wanted.
surprisingly. He had 136 yards on the ground. He had a big 68-yard
run. The Chargers'
run.
defense for most of the year was the strong part of that team. Melvin Ingram was Defensive Player of the Month in the AFC last month, or this September. And I think the Chargers got 1 sack, and it was neither Bosa or Ingram.
It was Fallon.
Fillin, yeah, he's like a backup D tackle. So
And Jaleel Adey, he led the team with 11 total tackles.
When your safety leads in tackles, that's not really a good thing.
No.
But and because I think an interview with one of the players after the game, they said they knew we were going to run it and we couldn't do anything about it. And when we know we're going to run it and they know we're going to run it and we still can't beat them, that's embarrassing. And because they could stop us on the run, they'd forced Phillip Rivers to just sling it all game. And that's always a
It's a
wild
question
card.
mark. Yeah. You don't know what you're going to get out of Gunslinger Rivers.
Yeah.
But, I mean, 347 with 2 touchdowns is not – I mean, it's okay.
And we were playing catch-up most of the game.
Yeah.
And similar to the Rams, the Eagles also have a very balanced team. I think they're right now the best team
in their division?
In the AFC East. I mean,
Yeah.
NFC East.
Oh, by far.
I mean, record-wise, but I think just like with team play as well, they're better than the Redskins and the Cowboys.
Well, that's
and
a
the
question
Giants
mark.
are real bad.
Well, we have to see how the Redskins play against Kansas City tonight,
That's
which is
also
by far the best game this week.
But like I said about the Rams, they can throw it. Carson Wentz is a great quarterback. They can pass it now. They have receivers in Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, Nelson Aguilar, Zach Ertz.
Zach Ertz is by far Carson Wentz's favorite target. He led the team in receiving with 81 yards. No player on the Eagles had over 100 yards. Carson Wentz he was spreading the wealth.
Spread the love. Yep.
Yeah, LeGarrette Blount led the team with 136.
LeGarrette Blount did have a lot of yards, but a lot of Wendell Smallwood, their third string running back, is now their second string because of the injury to Darren Sproles.
Right.
He reminds me a lot of Darren Sproles, but he's actually just more of a natural runner. Like Darren Sproles kind of invented this catching back thing, where you just swing him out or you have him run routes. Like Danny Woodhead also.
Yeah, you just
and Wendell
outpost.
Smallwood can do that, but I think he's just more pure of a running back. You know, like he can hit the gap and be the LeGarrette Blount, but he's a smaller guy. So they have a very balanced overall team, I think, and their defense is real impressive to me. I think
even they don't have Dansby, right? Or what's his name? He like messed up his ankle. He was a defensive back. I'll get back to you on that.
Defensive back. I don't remember.
On the Eagles, I believe. I'll get back to you.
I know who you're talking
yeah,
about. Darby?
Darby. Yes, Darby. Yeah, with a messed up
They
ankle.
just traded for him, too.
Yeah, very sad to see. But he'll be back soon. It
Yeah,
wasn't
I
that
think,
bad.
I think he'll be back in a few weeks.
But yeah, I give credit to this Eagles team a lot. They by far look like one of the better teams in their division. Like I said last week, they could win the division.
What are
like
they,
this.
3-1? Who'd they lose to?
Who did they lose to? Let's take a look. They lost to the Chiefs, 27-20.
Of course, they lost to the Chiefs.
Other
That was
notable
a close game too. I remember that.
They lost by a touchdown. Yeah, Carson Wentz was there, but just they couldn't do it. Other games to look out for tonight's game: Washington and Kansas City. Kansas City looking to remain the only undefeated team in the NFL. Kirk Cousins. I don't know what Kirk Cousins we're gonna expect.
Yeah, Kansas City's defense is really good,
and they're in Kansas City. New Orleans, 20-0 win over Miami and London. Buffalo with a big win over Atlanta, 23-17.
Buffalo in sole possession of first place in the AFC East. I really like Tyrod Taylor.
He's really coming into his own this year.
They re-signed him because in the offseason they were talking about just letting him go and maybe drafting a guy or bringing in the Kirk Cousins thing was in question still, or Tony Romo was also up there.
Jay
was
Cutler,
one of those
yeah.
people, yeah. So I'm glad they decided to keep him. He is one of those mobile quarterbacks that brings dual threat stuff, and with Sean McCoy, their ground attack is very lethal, and they traded for Chris Matthews, who was on the Eagles, and they drafted Jones in the second round. He's from East Carolina. I don't remember his first name, but he's also a really good receiver. They traded away Sammy Watkins, which was a surprise to everyone, and they thought they were in maybe rebuild mode.
Trades worked out for both teams.
Yeah, I agree. And their defense is also looking strong. I wouldn't say outstanding, but
no, they can get it. Get the job done. Other games talked about: Carolina, New England. Cam Newton gets the job done again in Foxborough. There was a game-winning field goal. I mean, Cam Newton's beaten Tom Brady before, and
hopefully he can do it in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, hopefully he can do it in the Super Bowl. Houston. I wanna highlight this really quick. Really, really, really quick. Deshaun Watson had the game of his life. Best game by far.
It's what they call a career game.
Yes. Watson accounts for 5 touchdowns. 4 in the air, 1 in the ground. 283 yards, 25 of 34. His fellow counterpart, Marcus Mariota, he left the game. He had a groin injury. He'll be out for a bit. But Deshaun Watson, this is what we expected out of him.
Yeah. I mean, maybe not so soon, though. I mean, it's week 4. This is what we expected, down the line. This is his 4th game in the NFL, and we expect, no one expected this.
Yeah. Tampa Bay with a 25-23 win over the Giants. The Giants are 0-4. Denver, one of the more better teams at home. I believe they're 22-5. They beat Oakland. Derek Carr left the game with an injury. It's believed to be not that serious. He'll be back next week.
Okay. Going back to the Giants, before the season started, a lot of people picked the Giants to win the NFC East because no one thought the Cowboys could replicate what they did last year. And the Giants were the only team to beat the Cowboys, I think. Well, the Giants beat the Cowboys twice last year. And I don't know what is happening to the Giants.
It's rough for Bob McAdoo. Bobby Ben.
Their offense is just
God awful.
Not getting stuff done. I don't know what it is because it's similar to the Chargers where they have all the pieces there. Like
Odell.
They're all good players.
Yeah.
But it's just, I know their line is questionable, but still, like, you should be able to do more with that line than what you're doing.
And Eli Manning, one of the better veteran quarterbacks. Not this year, but
I've never been a fan of Eli Manning for reasons, but
he has weapons in Sterling and Odell.
And Brandon Marshall.
Brandon Marshall there's too.
Apparently Brandon Marshall retired and forgot to tell the Giants, but and they drafted Evan Ingram in the first round from Ole Miss, tight end. I liked him a lot. He's looked like their only good offensive weapon too this year.
Yeah.
The running game is not great. That is apparent. Paul Perkins has not had the great year, which is expected because their O-line has underperformed. But there are teams in the NFL who have no run game and still succeed. You look at the Patriots. You look at the Saints sometimes. They're not...
Even though they have Adrian Peterson.
They're wishy-washy.
Yeah.
You look at, like, the Seahawks ever since last year and this year also look wishy-washy. I guess I'm not making a good point. But it's not impossible to have a good offense without a running back. But I honestly just don't know what's wrong with the Giants right now. Their defense is also underperforming, in my opinion.
Other games include the Green Bay Packers destroying Chicago 35-14, and we have some great news. If you're a Bears fan.
Hallelujah.
Mitchell Trubisky will be starting next week.
The Vikings, right?
The Vikings? Let's take a look. But regardless, Glennon on the year, he had that big contract. They signed him to.
I believe it was $36 million.
And now you're on the bench with 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and 833 yards. What do you expect out of Trubisky? Do you expect him to shine like at a Deshaun Watson level? I know the Bears are mediocre. They're playing the Vikings next week. You're right, on Monday night. The Vikings lost 14-7. So
the Mike Glennon contract is guaranteed $18.5 million
over
3 years.
Wow.
But the total deal is worth $45 million.
That's what you get on the bench.
He's a $45 million backup quarterback. He's like Osweiler, but just on the bench earlier.
The Bears' schedule includes this week Monday night versus the Vikings. Next week will be the Ravens, Panthers, Saints, Packers, Lions, Eagles, Niners, Bengals, Lions, Browns, Vikings.
Now the thing is, when all is said and done, I believe that the Bears will have regretted their choice in Mitch Trubisky because I think Deshaun Watson or Mahomes are just better, right? Just in my opinion, just based off what they did in college.
Mm-hmm.
Because in college, Mitch Trubisky didn't really win that much, He
was at
North Carolina Tar Heels.
Yeah, an underperforming North Carolina team.
I mean, yeah, the intangibles are there. He had a good year there, but it all comes down to winning games, I think. But I say they're going to regret their decision to pick Trubisky just because I think Watson and Mahomes will be better. But that doesn't mean that Trubisky won't have a good career. This is the beginning of his career, and it's on a Bears team that is very focused on running the football. Now, the Vikings defense is also nothing to scoff at. They have a very good secondary and pass rush. Xavier Rhodes is, in my opinion, a top 3 corner in the NFL. and he's going to have a tough time this week. And he gets an extra day to prepare. It's on Monday. But you asked me what I'm expecting out of him. I'm expecting him to look better than Mike Glennon would against the Vikings because, my God, about time, John Fox. That's all I have to say.
About time.
I'm excited. He in preseason he was an exciting quarterback to watch.
Yeah, he looked very well in the preseason.
He does play action really well. He throws on the run really well. He looked better than Mike Glennon. I don't know why this even happened, but and then everyone got surprised when they traded up one pick to get him after spending $45 million to get Mike Glennon. So Bears front office is looking on hot ice right now.
Thin ice.
Yeah, whatever. If it's hot ice, it's thin.
It's melting. It's practically melted. It's practically not even there. We're not even gonna. We're done off the football right now. We're done on football. We're gonna talk about baseball.
You don't want to do bread and butter stat of the day?
Oh, what you got?
Well, it's Richard's stat of the day.
Oh
shit,
Richard,
My
where have you
turn.
I don't want
been?
to steal his thunder.
Before we get to baseball, Richard,
What's cracking? Sorry, I was
tell me some stats,
Swiping.
please.
All right. So, October 2nd, 1968, St. Louis Cardinals pitcher Bob Gibson strikes out 17 Detroit Tigers in the first game of the World Series, breaking Sandy Koufax's record for the most strikeouts in a series
The
game.
World Series was on October 2nd.
Yeah, well, they didn't have 162
Did
games.
they just start earlier?
Yeah, well, there wasn't 162
there wasn't?
games. No.
When was this? 1970 something?
68.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Bob Gibson, one of the best pitchers to have ever touched the mound, and one of the best African-American baseball players ever. So congratulations to him on that stat. Yeah.
On this day?
On this day.
Little lower note, I guess. Gene Autry, the singing cowboy and former owners of the Anaheim Angels baseball team, died at the age of 91.
The singing cowboy.
I didn't know he owned the Angels.
He did a long time ago. Yeah. What else we got?
Oh, 1950. Today, the Peanuts was created by Charles M. Schulz.
Wow.
You know, I can't do it.
I mean, it's close enough. I get it.
Charlie Brown.
Oh, yeah.
The iconic Lucy taking away the football when
Yeah.
Charlie Brown's kicking it. There you go.
Yeah.
Or that yellow shirt with the brown.
Yeah,
brown
with the
squiggles on it.
and the
Snoopy,
Oh man, dude, classic.
the bird. I forgot the bird. Winston. I was going to say Winston.
1950.
Yeah.
That was 67 years ago.
Damn.
What else?
Let's see. Birthdays. Tyson Chandler, 1982, American basketball player.
A career that has gone south.
Yeah.
What else?
I don't even know where he is now.
Phoenix.
Sting's birthdays.
Oh,
today.
okay. Sting.
1951, English
Yikes.
singer-songwriter, bass player, and actor.
From the Police.
1951.
Every breath you
I
take,
feel old and I'm not even like.
every
from
move
that
you make,
generation.
I'll be watching you.
That's weird.
Okay,
That's a
now it's
song.
weird. When you don't sing it, it's really creepy.
You need to
Every
sing.
breath you take.
See,
There
now
you go.
it's like I feel comforted.
Yeah, see,
I'll
it's
be
like-
watching
Thanks,
you.
Zach. I feel good now.
Since you got. Okay, keep going. I don't want to get into it.
What about Maury Wills?
American
Legendary
baseball.
Dodger.
Manager and sportscaster.
The legendary Dodger. Another great African American baseball player.
1932.
Another great Dodger.
Boom.
I wonder who put that in there.
Oh, I wonder.
Richard.
Richard.
His stat.
Don McLean, 1945. American singer, songwriter, and guitarist.
Legendary Don McLean. Alrighty. Is that all the stats we got?
We got one more.
What do you got?
1919, U.S. President Woodrow Wilson suffers a massive stroke.
Oh,
leaving
yeah,
him
dude.
partially
I just
paralyzed.
learned about this in history class.
Nice.
Yeah. Woodrow Wilson,
When,
arguably one of the greatest presidents of the
yeah,
United
he's up there.
States. Yeah.
While he had the stroke, his wife basically ran the country because after the stroke, he was never the same.
Give us a
And-
little history lesson.
1919 was we were done with World War I,
Yeah.
and he created the League of Nations, which inevitably led to the United Nations, which is right now. But so at the Treaty of Paris, which was at Versailles, actually,
Treaty of Versailles.
it's called the Treaty of Paris, but it's at Versailles,
Oh.
which was the treaty that ended World War One and gave Germany all these limitations that made them mad. So
We don't like that.
So
You know what
Woodrow
happens
Wilson
next.
brought this League of Nations thing to the Treaty of Paris, and then he had the stroke, and then the League of Nations didn't pass in Congress because of the stroke, and his wife was running the country. So history altered on this day.
Man, that's a big
Thus
moment.
creating the real like stronghold position of FLOTUS. The first woman.
First lady.
First lady,
Yeah.
first woman, same thing.
I think her name was
tomato.
Oh, I don't want to get it wrong.
Don't say it.
Oh, don't.
You're going to get it wrong.
Mrs. Wilson.
Mrs.
Boom.
Wilson.
A good save. Good save.
Is that all?
That's it. We're done.
Thank you. Let's go on to baseball. The postseason is right around the corner. It starts tomorrow with the Twins and the Yankees playing in the American League wild card. Luis Severino, the ace of the Yankees, will be taking on Irvin Santana, the ace of the Twins. Severino on the year, 14 and 6, 2.98 ERA, 230 strikeouts. Santana 16 and 8, 3.28 ERA, 167 strikeouts. The Yankees have Aaron Judge, and if they didn't have Aaron Judge, they wouldn't be here.
True.
Aaron Judge demolished the American League rookie record of home runs. He's an absolute beast. Who do you have winning?
Who do I think is going to win, or
Yeah.
who do I want to win?
Who do you want to win?
As a Rays fan, I want the Twins to win.
But
the Yankees are a very good team. Their offense is unbelievable with Judge, and they have Starlin Castro and what's his name? Brett Gardner's always a good.
Jacoby Ellsbury,
Mrs. Wilson.
Judge, they have Mrs. Wilson.
Yeah.
They have Gary Sanchez.
Their pitching's a little suspect recently to me. Minnesota's offense is also nothing to scoff at. So I think New York is going to win, but it's honestly 50-50 to me.
I think the Yankees are going to win. I think it should be an easy win for them. They destroyed the Twins in the season series. And the Yankees, I believe, whoever wins this game, I should say. Whoever wins this game will be playing the Indians, and I don't really think they'll necessarily have a shot at beating them.
Okay, honestly, baseball postseason is the most impossible thing to predict ever. Anything can happen, especially in a wild card game. If there's only one game.
Possible.
You can pull out all the stops, no holding back.
The notable teams who have won the World Series recently from the wild card include the Royals and the Giants.
So I always hate assuming things, especially about the baseball postseason. But
the Indians are so good.
Because I have to, I would also assume that the Indians would just win out the AL pennant.
That's a safe assumption. I think so.
But I'm predicting Houston will win it.
Okay, there we go. So you're saying Houston's going to win the pennant and go to the World Series? Okay, that's
Houston
safe.
in Chicago.
Okay, now we're going to jump to the national. Oh, you said Chicago. Wow. Okay,
Chicago.
Houston and Chicago. That's what you're going with. Okay.
Much experience, man.
Now let's jump to the National League. The Diamondbacks will play the Rockies in what was a predicted wild card. The Dodgers.
It's like May. This was
Yeah.
a predicted wild card.
The Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, and the Rockies, all from the National League West. 3 teams there. One of the more dominant divisions in all of baseball. And the Diamondbacks and the Rockies are arguably one of the 2 better teams in all of baseball.
I agree.
John Gray will face Zach Greinke. The Diamondbacks, obviously, one of the better pitching teams in the National League behind the Dodgers. The Diamondbacks also have a deadly offense led by trade deadline day tradeee JD Martinez,
They got Goldie and
Goldschmidt,
all that.
AJ Pollock.
Yeah.
But so Colorado has a deadly offense too, and Arenado, Trevor Story, Blackman,
They do have a deadly offense
and a good pitching and a great pitching
Yeah,
manager.
I wouldn't. Yeah. Okay. I think Arizona's going to win because I think their offense is just better.
I think Arizona's the better team in general.
Yeah.
I think they're going to win too. Going down the line for postseason, I say the World Series matchup.
I wonder.
I wonder. I'm going to go with my Dodgers. Realistically, I want to go with my Dodgers, but realistically, I don't know if I could really choose the Dodgers. And I say for the American League, I say Houston. as well. I think Houston is a great team all around.
So, okay. In the NL, how we think it's going to play out is the Dodgers will play the Diamondbacks. I think the Dodgers can beat the Diamondbacks can beat the Dodgers. I don't think it will happen.
I don't think it will happen either. I think you're correct on that.
And then the Cubs play the
Nationals.
The Nationals, I think the Cubs will just win.
I think that's actually going to be the most interesting series in the postseason. I really do.
Houston and Red Sox will be the most interesting series.
Yeah, that's true. I think both series are very interesting.
The both 2-3 seeds are
Don't
good.
watch any of these other series. Watch the Red Sox, Astros, and Cubs Nationals. If you want to watch great baseball, those are 4 teams right there.
Yeah. I mean, also, I'm going to keep saying it. Nothing in baseball in postseason can ever be assumed. So we're assuming the Dodgers are just going to blow out the Diamondbacks or the Rockies. And they're on equal grounds. They're both playoff teams in baseball. Anything can happen. Baseball is just one of those games. So I would not be surprised if the Yankees 4-0'd the Indians or the Twins 4-0'd the Indians just because it's baseball. Mm-hmm. Like anything can happen. So because I have to pick all this stuff,
don't pick your World Series. Don't pick your winner yet. Just pick the matchup already.
I did that.
You said
Houston,
Chicago, and I say L.A. and Houston. We'll save it for when the championship series come around, which will be around the
end of October.
It'll be around the middle of October. The Central ALCS game starts Friday, October 13th. But that's going to wrap it up here for episode 8 of Bread and Butter Sports Podcast. I'm Zach Ferber. Alongside me, Taylor Enns, Richard Endall. We wishing everybody a happy Monday, and we'll see you guys Wednesday afternoon. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.